1320, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And the report came down, I don't know, about a half hour ago that the details have been released. So a lot of people went out and wrote reports. The details have been released, but we haven't had time to read them all. And so now at 1:49 Texas time, which is the only time, I saw Newsweek actually put out all 14 points. I haven't even finished reading it for you yet. So this is how like breaking news this is. Boom. So I was kind of running through this. You want to just run through it with me? Well, you don't really have a choice, do you? All right. First off, the United States and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies in the current war decide to have a termination of military operations on all fronts. That includes Lebanon. So apparently we're speaking for Israel too in this one. I think Israel might, after this deal, is public and everyone gets to digest it, I think secretly they're okay with it. But publicly they're going to be like, hey, we got left out, because that makes Iran feel better. They're like, yeah, we get to screw Israel. But I bet you behind closed doors, Israel's cool with this. So they are now going to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity and refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. The final deal on the uranium, a 60 days extendable with mutual consent. The naval blockade gets removed. It's the next bullet point, but it's really a very long paragraph. The next one, another long paragraph. Safe passage of commercial vessels with no charge for 60 days only. And that goes vice versa, from the Persian Gulf to the Sea of Oman, and from the Sea of Oman to the Persian Gulf. United States of America undertakes regional partners. Here's the sticky point, and this is kind of where I got left and I had to go push some buttons a second ago. This is where I might have a problem. This bullet point says the United States of America undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Mechanism for the implementation of this plan will be finalized as part of the final deal within 60 days. Required license, waivers, permissions needed for relevant transactions will be granted by the United States of America. Now, hang on now. I understand that there's going to be some rebuilding that's had, and I understand they're probably going to spend billions of dollars. But there better not be 1 cent of United States taxpayer dollars that goes into this. If they're talking about $300 billion, and some of that's going to be funds that were unfrozen from the previous sanctions, if that's going to be private sector businesses saying, yeah, I'll go rebuild that bridge, or I'll go rebuild that pipeline, or I'll go rebuild that military runway, and it's not coming out of your paycheck, it's not coming out of the general treasury of the United States of America, totally cool with that. That's a big number. And I'm putting a little asterisk next to this, like a little push pin in the map that's on the bulletin board, because that might be a problem. I don't know if it's a problem. We don't have enough details to know if it's a problem, but it might be. And I noticed they didn't take the step to say it definitely won't be American taxpayer dollars. So, next bullet point, get rid of all the sanctions, including the United Nations Security Council resolutions. So, yeah, it's just not our sanctions. There's some sanctions from the United Nations that would be lifted. Then they're talking about, what is this, inspection of the IAEA sites. So that would be nuclear sites. So they got to go figure out what the heck's going on and let the outside world know what's going on with their nuclear weapons. The next bullet point, the Islamic Republic of Iran affirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. Now, if Iran signs on that, you and I both know that's worth about the paper it's written on. These guys lie, and they lie as a matter of within their ethical bounds. They don't even have any hypocritical or moral compunctions about it. They're instructed by their religion to lie. Our religion tells us not to lie. A lot of us can't understand this other line of thinking. Like, oh, you're a religious person, so you must be honest. No, actually it works the opposite over there. Let's see. Pending the final deal, maintain status quo. Oh, this is an interesting part too. The Islamic Republic of Iran will maintain the current status quo of its nuclear program, and the United States will not impose any new sanctions and will not deploy additional forces in the region. So they're allowed to have a nuclear program, but it's going to be for energy only. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. And they also agree to not develop a nuclear weapon or procure. So if China wants to hand them a nuclear weapon or sell them a nuclear weapon, They're not allowed to do that either. I don't know how we would enforce that. What happens if they just take a nuclear weapon? What are we going to give them? D-Hall? These other paragraphs are long and I haven't read them yet, so I can't really do that on live radio. So the updates we had from Trump this morning, where he was asked about the situation with Iran. I mean, he sounded kind of positive here, but the reporters weren't that positive. Well, what happens if they don't agree? What happens if the uranium doesn't get settled? Well, what happens if they don't open the Straits of Hormuz? Well, what happens? And eventually, after about 4 of these questions in a row, he's like, listen, if this doesn't work, we're just going to go back to bombing them.
Final, or are you still?
No, it's not final. It's a memorandum of understanding. And if I don't like it, we'll go back to shooting at them, dropping bombs on their
When
head.
do you expect the word?
If I don't like it, if they don't behave, we'll go right back to dropping bombs right smack in the middle of their head. Okay? Because they've misbehaved for 47 years. All right?
Last night, I don't know where he was at, but he was on a stage that was kind of echoey. Somewhere in Switzerland. He's at the G7 meet. I forgot what city it's in because I'm a goober. But he was asked about the Iran deal. Hey, the Iran deal is going to be signed in Geneva. This is like 2 towns over. Are you going to hang out for a couple more days just to get this thing signed? Because, today's Wednesday, and it's supposed to be signed on Friday. And he actually says it may be signed tomorrow or the next day. So maybe it gets signed tomorrow. We don't know.
Thank you, President Trump. I have a question about this weekend. Why not stick around for the signing ceremony with this Iran peace deal?
I might.
You might.
Yeah, I might. But I'd rather, this is a memorandum of understanding. It's very important, but it might not be the kind of a document that I should be signing.
Which makes sense because this isn't the final peace deal. And so you go there, you sign the memorandum of understanding. Politically speaking, you might have just created your own mission accomplished moment like George W. Bush did. Oh, I thought the Iran war was over. See this picture where he's sitting there with the representatives from Iran signing the deal. Doesn't he look like a fool now? Yeah, so he may not stay around for the deal. I can see why he would. I can see why he wouldn't. Doesn't seem to be really functionally important, but it is going to be a political football to be played. I also like the fun Peter Doocy had with him at the end. If you just make J.D. Vance sign it as your vice president, if anything goes south, then you can just blame him.
Is there some element to this where you send the vice president, if it works out, great, you look like a genius for sending him. And if it doesn't work out, it's the vice president.
I like that idea, sure. Well, this way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming J.D. You better be careful, J.D. He's going to turn his plane around and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's a good idea.
All right, coming up next on The James Show, I'm going to read the last 3 paragraphs from the 14 points in the Memorandum of Understanding in the U.S.-Iran peace deal. If there's anything that interests you, you'll hear it in 4 minutes on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Did you used to be an athlete? You remember your glory days in high school? I don't know what you played, football, basketball, soccer, whatever your jam was. I know a lot of people who boogered up their knees and some tore their ACL their senior year of high school, and it never actually went away. James Parker here for QC Kinetics. I have a pinky injury that I got in college. Never went away. Well, when you got that injury, we didn't have QC Kinetics. Since you got that injury, there has been new technology. We've had wild advancements since you've been in high school and or college, and maybe you should try them out. Maybe the cure for your constant pain has been invented since you got that injury. Why don't you call QC Kinetics and find out? It doesn't cost anything to go into the office, get a consultation, have them look at you. Maybe they'll do the little ultrasound like they did on my back. It took 15 minutes to figure out what my deal was. Another 15 minutes to actually do the treatment. I was out of there in 30 minutes. And my pain, it was already improved before I even made it to the car. I felt better. So find out if it's right for you. Go to QC Kinetics. You got to call them first, though. 972 972 8610. 972 972 8610. We have the 14 points in the memorandum of understanding for the Iran peace deal. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And I don't think they got to read it for you before the James Show. They're on from 11 to 2 here on WBAP. Because I just finally saw them published by someone at 1:49 our time, Texas time. I saw it on Newsweek, but I had seen a lot of people say the text has been released. We're going through it and stay tuned for more updates. Well, I'm in the stay tuned for more updates phase. If you're just joining us, the number one most important line of it is right here in one of the bullet points where it says the Islamic Republic of Iran affirms that it shall not procure or develop nuclear weapons. Now, it's easy to write that down on a piece of paper. It hasn't been real easy to slide that across the table and get an Ayatollah to sign it for the last 50 years. But if this happens, if this gets signed, this gets implemented, and we don't have to fall back into war, then the number one biggest objective of what Donald Trump claimed he was doing for the Iran war would have been accomplished. There have been a regime change. There has been a decimation of their military capabilities and the ending of the nuclear program. That would hit all three of the bullet points they have been saying since day one. Does it mean we get the uranium? Don't know. Don't know. So what the heck's going on here? Is this my mic? So let's look at my two problems with this, because a lot of this sounds good. A lot of this sounds like, all right, we'll open the Straits of Hormuz. We're going to stop shooting each other and bombing each other. We're going to lift the stations. We're going to get back to business. Sanctions. We're going to get back to business. The two big fat question marks I have on this is, number one, the $300 billion worth of rebuilding for Iran. None of that had better come from the taxpayers of America, or I'm going to be ticked and gripe about it. I mean, if it's coming from private sector companies within America, if Halliburton wants to go rebuild some runways for their military base that got all blowed up, that makes sense. I'm cool with that. But I don't like the sound of that, and I will oppose it if that happens to be the case. I don't know. The other big question mark that's hanging over your head like one of those Super Mario Brothers blocks is the uranium. You still don't know where it is. You still don't know what's going to happen to it. You still don't know if it's going to be grabbed by the United States and we will give them back some non-weapons grade, just energy grade uranium for them to use in their nuclear program, because they are going to maintain a peacetime energy only nuclear program. And so we have a lot more details than we had yesterday. The other thing that I read on the break. One more here. The United States of America undertakes to make fully available for use the frozen or restricted funds and assets of the Islamic Republic of Iran upon the implementation of this MOU, Memorandum of Understanding. There's a long paragraph here, Central Bank of the Islamic Republic, but it basically says all of the financial sanctions are going to be lifted before we get the uranium, before the 60 days, before the final deal is signed. So what if we release all their money, they move it around, or they pull it out, and then they balk on the deal? Yeah, you kind of open yourself up to look like a fool if that happens. I don't know if that's going to happen. I've never run a country. I've never negotiated a peace deal. But these seem like they could be problems in the future. Jeff in Southlake, you're on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP.
Yeah, James, all of this seems to be well and good, but I haven't heard anything about the Iranian people. What's going to benefit them?
Well, they're going to stop getting bombed? I don't know. What are you worried about? What do you want to happen for them?
Not at war with the people. We're at war with Islamists.
Agreed. What do you think should be added to it? What are we missing here?
I'm sorry?
Well, what do you think should be added? What's your concern about the Iranian people? What would you have added to this memorandum to address that?
Well, somehow or another, those people need to be helped because they got slaughtered when we started promising them we were going to take care of them.
What does helped mean?
Help get rid of what was being hung over their heads on a daily basis.
Well, it sounds like they're not going to get that. It sounds like the Ayatollah, whichever Ayatollah is currently in charge, I don't know. We don't even have proof of life on this guy. we hadn't seen him in public. But it sounds like the remnants of the old regime are still in charge. We're just hoping they're a little bit more of softies when it comes to Islamic fundamentalism than the previous guys. But I mean, there's still dudes that are running around in bathrobes, and I think until we get a guy that's wearing regular pants, we always have to be real skeptical if enough change has been made.
Yeah, well, you know, I don't know what to say. I don't know what's going to help them, but I know we're going to lose millions as far as their support is concerned.
Well, you're not wrong. You're just bringing up an uncomfortable point.
How are they going to trust us now?
No, they're not.
Sorry?
They're not. You're right. You're right. You're not wrong. I just don't like talking about it because the Iranian people they're still going to be screwed. They're still going to live under ayatollahs. They're still going to live under the semi-Sharia socialism, which is just a terrible combination of governance styles. No, you're right, Jeff in Southlake. You just, man, if you open up your heart too big, you're going to find something to not like about this deal. That's for sure. All right, coming up next on the James Show, now that we have the 14 points in the Memorandum of Understanding, now that I've shared them all with you and we've sort of digested it, here's a cool exercise. Let's go back and see what they were saying earlier this week about the Iran deal. Well, you'll hear from Donald Trump and the governor from Pennsylvania, J.B. Pritzker. Or no, from Illinois, J.B. Pritzker. And you'll see which one was a little more accurate. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Wow, Ben Shapiro is already on Fox News saying this deal is a disaster. I'm James Parker. It's The James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, we have a real funny definition of what disaster is. Usually, for all of human history until about 5 months ago, if a war went disastrous for you, that means someone storming the walls of your city and raping your wife and children. It means something, your hometown is on fire. It means all the grain stores have been burned and about half of you are going to die of famine over the next winter. Here we're like, well, we didn't get everything we wanted in the peace deal. I mean, this is a war. You have experienced no suffering, no hardship. Neither have I. I mean, not even like the fear of watching a rocket fly overhead like the people in Israel have to do every day. We've just been over here chilling, watching it on TV, saying all kinds of tough stuff on our keyboards. But look, I'm just glad that the war is maybe over. I hope this is for real. I hope this sticks. But I'm not 100% on this. I do not feel like totally warm and fuzzy about this situation. Here's what we have. Iran, if they sign this, Iran is going to sign a piece of paper saying they agree to not develop or procure a nuclear weapon. That would be a big win. That would be one of the big three objectives that Trump had when he went in there. Also, one was to decimate them militarily, knock out the Ayatollah regime change, and then end the nuclear program. So they'll still have a peaceful nuclear program, but not a nuclear weapons program. I don't see how Ben Shapiro can say this is a disaster already. We don't know what's going to happen with the uranium. It might end up being a disaster, but right now it looks like it could go either way. It looks like it could go pretty well. Now, let me play you what Trump was saying earlier this week about the Iran deal. And when I say earlier this week, this is a clip from yesterday where the text hadn't been released. Now, it got released right before the James Show, and I already read the whole thing, and I shared with you the bullet points. But here's what he was saying yesterday about the text.
I'd like to get a formal setting first before we do that, but I have no problem with that. It's good document. Here's what it says. Iran will never have a nuclear weapon. That's what it says. It won't have one. To buy, to develop, they will not have a nuclear weapon. And I would say that's about 99.9% of what I wanted, because we couldn't let that happen. You couldn't let that happen. And they won't have a nuclear weapon. Now, in addition to that, the Strait is going to be open toll-free. And it's toll-free beyond the 60 days. It's not, somebody said, oh, it's toll-free for six. No. It's toll-free, period. When it opens permanently, it'll be toll-free. I want to congratulate our Navy because the naval blockade was unbelievable. But I'll not only release it, I'll probably have a press conference and read it to you word by word.
Well, don't worry, I just did that for you. So he was right. What was in there was the sentence that he promised that Iran will not develop nor procure a nuclear weapon. Now, here's J.B. Pritzker, the Illinois governor, 2 days ago saying the Trump-Iran deal sucks. He hasn't read the text, but he already knows it's bad.
Iran. Obviously, the conflict there is something that everybody is watching, the impact that it's having on gas, on so many different things. There's news of a deal, but nobody really knows what's in the deal. We wrote this morning in Punchbowl News AM about some skepticism, even among Republican senators, saying, that's great that they say there's a deal, but what's actually the details of it? What do you think needs to be part of it for it to be something that you think would actually be a win for America?
Well, so far it sounds like the deal is really just a cessation of hostilities and, pushing off into the future negotiations about things, which it opens the Strait of Hormuz, but it begs the question, why did we get involved in this conflict in the first place, which I believe to have been an illegal war, should have gone to Congress and gotten a resolution from Congress to authorize it. But look, I think the question I think we're all going to have to ask is this any better than the JCPOA that was already in place when Donald Trump tore it up in his first term?
All right, so who ended up being more correct? That's a to be determined answer. Because if everything that's written on paper in this deal comes to pass, then Trump will be proven correct. But we still have this nasty little 60-day window where they have to work out the final details, and the final deal hasn't been signed. And there are big question marks about the uranium. There are big question marks about the money that's going to be used to rebuild Iran. And I know what Shapiro is going to be upset about. It's the part of the 14 points of understanding. I was reading it to you in the first segment, that part where there will be no more hostilities or strikes anywhere in the region, including Lebanon. Remember, I even said in the first segment that Israel's probably not going to like that. Israel's not part of the peace talks, but we're signing off and promising something to Iran that involves Israel without Israel's consent. Can we force Israel to not attack Lebanon anymore, to hold up our peace deal? So I bet you that's where Ben Shapiro is going to have a problem with this.
Saying that Mohammed Khalibaf, who will apparently on Friday be literally in a photo op with the vice president of the United States. I cannot express to you how stomach turning that is. I don't care who the vice president is. I don't care who the president is. Leaders of the United States of America in a photo op with a mass murdering terrorist supporter like Mohammed Khalibaf shaking hands 6 months after he blew away 42,000 innocent people in the streets, and weeks after his administration was firing missiles at literally all of our allies in the region and continues to support every terrorist group in the region and is currently continuing to control the strait. Like right now, it is not fully open for business unless the Iranians have, quote unquote, decided it is. And as we'll get to when it comes to the Strait of Hormuz, it's totally unclear what happens next.
Well, listen, it's not even supposed to be open. They haven't even signed the deal yet. But you hear where he's going with that. But Ben Shapiro, whoever we sign the Iran deal with is necessarily going to be a flawed and somewhat evil character. Who do you want to sign the deal with? Jesus sitting in Iran to sign the deal with. It's going to be a flawed character. It's going to be someone who's in charge of a fundamentalist Islamic theocracy. We're not going to get any good people on the other side of that signing table. Can we just end the war? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. Coming up next, more on the reaction to the Iran deal now that we have the 14 points in the Memorandum of Understanding. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. We're going over the Iran peace deal now that we finally seen it. That makes a big difference. I'm James Parker. Welcome to the James Show on News Talk 820. 93.3 FM WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. And they didn't have this story for you because it just happened right before they got off the air today. It's 11 minutes before the James Show started. The 14 points in the Memorandum of Understanding were released. And it's a mixed bag. We still don't know what's going to happen with the uranium. Whatever is signed on a piece of paper, just we're on the honor system, it seems here. There doesn't seem to be a whole lot of enforcement mechanism. Couple of questionable points here is if we're lifting all the sanctions now, what are they going to do? Just withdraw their money and put it somewhere else, and then we can't sanction them anymore? Let's go through some of the comments already from other James Show listeners, just like you. Tanner had a couple of good points here. Tanner, she says over here on Facebook, I don't trust them to hold their end of the deal. And that's kind of a problem we have with no matter what the details of the deal are, that's going to be an issue, period. So that's not a plus or a minus on Donald Trump. It's just a terrible situation of what happens a lot of times in geopolitics. You're trying to end a war. You trust these people? But Tanner's second comment, she says, I don't think it's a disaster. Just don't know how this will end in the long term of things. And yet the IRGC is still in charge. Right. I mean, we had regime change in the fact that we blowed up the previous Ayatollah and replaced him with a new one that's half blowed up. But the fact that the Islamists are still in charge, the fact that they didn't have to come in and write a new constitution and make a new government and start all over from scratch, that feels like a problem. I'm with you on that one, Tanner. Dennis over here on Facebook says, about all you are speaking to regarding the Memorandum of Understanding with Iran is propaganda from them ahead of Trump's announcement. Will Trump send the MOU to the Senate to adopt? That would make it different than Barack's JCPOA. Okay. I like all that. It really does feel like propaganda from both sides. I think Iran is totally talking out the side of their neck as well. Have you seen the stuff that they're tweeting? See, we told you we won. We totally made them capitulate. Yeah, you really defeated America. Blew up our president? No, we blew up your president. Dennis also said, will Hezbollah be signing the MOA? Hamas, the Houthis. And that's a great point, too. How can we promise that there's going to be a cessation of hostilities going back and forth between Lebanon? Do we control Hezbollah? Does Iran really control Hezbollah, or do they kind of fund them? And even if they get their funding cut from Iran, they're still going to be causing problems as long as they can get their hands on money from somewhere. How do you get them to stop? I don't have an answer for that. I think that's a legit criticism, Dennis. Schizo over here on Rumble says, I can't get past Shapiro's wind-up toy munchkin voice to concentrate on what he's saying. He does have a funny delivery. He does a thing where he talks really fast, and it kind of feels like you're listening to someone speak Spanish, even though it's English, because it just sounds like, just, whoa, slow down, fella. But yeah, this is the part he doesn't like. I went to later in he released a video about 13 minutes ago of his initial reaction to it. And he doesn't like the idea of what I just mentioned and what some of the other commenters to the James Show were saying. He doesn't like how this ties Israel's hands militarily, especially with the things that are going on in Lebanon. Like, how can you tell them what to do? How can you enforce that?
And that they expect everyone to honor the agreement. Okay, if Israel is not a party to the actual talks, which they are not, they have not been included in the talks. If Israel is not a signatory to the agreement, which they are not, how in the world could you tie Israel's hands when it comes to self-defense in Lebanon while Hezbollah is firing rockets and drones over the border at Israeli citizens?
Yeah, that's I think that's to be determined. Ben might have a good point there because, look, I think he is way too concerned about the well-being of Israel, almost to like he's more concerned about Israel than America. I hear that complaint about Mark Levin. Not sure if I agree with it, but they do seem to be very concerned about the well-being of Israel more so than the rest of us. It makes sense. They have a cultural and religious tie to their homeland. But in this one, that's going to put us in the weird situation. We sign this deal. We say, yeah, we're going to have a cessation of hostilities. And then what if in 20, 30 days, 40 days from now, Hezbollah starts lobbing rockets into Israel? How do we enforce? Do we go to Iran and say, hey, I thought we agreed to not do that? And Iran's like, that's not us. Do we have to go to Israel and say, hey, you just have to take these rockets, you can't fire back, or it's going to mess up our deal? Or do we step aside and let Israel do whatever they want and go, well, that's not us? I know. This is the kind of wiggle room that could undo this deal. This is the kind of, the sort of gray area, margin that's built into this deal that could cause it to fall apart. And look, I hope it doesn't. I'm not like hoping for this to fall apart, but we can already see some cracks in the foundation. That's not really a good thing. Rick in Past Christian emailed in to James at WBAP.com. He says, James, if we let them have their frozen assets back, they'll deposit the money in Beijing. They'll have plenty of credit to buy Chinese weapons for Hezbollah. This is a bad deal, regardless of who's supposedly paying for it. We always get the bill in the end. Good show. Dylan sent an email to James at WBAP.com. He says, I see this deal as a setup from our side. I think Trump did this right. If we all sign this deal, we know Iran will break the deal. Then Trump has real justification to go back in there and destroy them. It justifies and legitimizes the war to Congress and the American people, even though all of the libtards will say it's an illegal war. How does that legitimize it to Congress? Are we ever going to force a vote in Congress for them to approve this? If we get this signed and we take it to Congress and they get it signed? I see what you're saying there. You think this is like a 4D chess move? I don't know. I think they're just signing this and hoping it sticks. Because I don't think they want any more problems with gas prices or the economy or anything else to gripe about from now until at least November. But that's also kind of the super cynical take, isn't it? Coming up next, the more you learn about this supposed terror plot on the White House during the UFC event that happened on Sunday, the worse it gets. And guess what? You're being blamed for it. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You know, this terror plot for the White House UFC event is a lot wilder than it sounded at first glance. I'm James Parker. It's the James Show, News Talk 829.33 FM WBAP. It sounded like some nerds just got so spun up in their Trump derangement syndrome that they got on some nerd channel and they're like, we should do something. We're not just nerds. We can strike back and show the captain of the football team, I mean Donald Trump, we mean business. And so there's a class of people who have been rejected by the world, and so they turn around and do their own little return rejection, and they're just full of hate and antipathy, and it's really just kind of based on envy. And so you get some of these guys that just rise up and strike out, and they lash out at the world that's already rejected them. This is a little bit different than that. This is that, plus about 4 other things stacked upon it. The scary part is when you can find more than one crazy person at a time. You can always explain why some guy decided he's going to get a gun and he's going to go into a black church and he's going to shoot everyone. It's because he's just a crazy person. He's all spun up. He's probably self-radicalized, convinced himself to go down this hateful rabbit hole of a worldview. And like when Dylan Roof went and shot up the black church in South Carolina, do you remember the backstory on that? He was trying to find a group to join. He was trying to find like a local Klan chapter or some local neo-Nazis, or there's some Aryans or some Aryan Brotherhood type people. He couldn't find anyone to join him in his hateful crusade, and that's why he had to do it by himself. That's not nearly as scary as this story, where there's a bunch of people who are just as spun up and psychoed out on hate as the Dylan Roof shooter fella. Except there seems to be a lot of people involved in this. And no one at any point was going, oh, tap the brakes, bruh. They kept adding to it. Here's what we should do. We should have some drones go and maybe attack some nearby buildings or just attack anything close to the fight. And then they'll have a mandatory evacuation. And at that point, when all of the public is leaving on the northern side, because this is going to be on the north lawn of the White House, the high value targets, and they talked about high value targets that were going to be there. Donald Trump, Elon Musk, they're all going to be evacuated back toward the White House into safety. And there they had set up a little kill zone where we can have, 4 or 5 sniper teams that are searching out high value targets and hopefully taking out as many of these evil people as we can. Pretty bad, huh? So can we just establish that whatever this is not a pro-Trump group of people here? This is not a right-wing group of people here. This is not like Christian fundamentalists that have gotten out of control. But I'm going to play you just a small part of this ABC News report on it. And you're going to come away with the idea, like the way they describe this. This is former military guys based on Christianity. They're going to use the term you've never heard before, ultra-religious. Not religious, not radical religious, not fundamentalist religious, ultra religious. And anti-government. Bro, that sounds like me.
Today, at least 5 suspects are in custody across 4 states after the FBI said they were planning to attack the White House UFC fight night on President Trump's 80th birthday. Investigators say 19-year-old Tyson Proper from Ohio was among those coordinating the alleged plot. The criminal complaint against him describes his mother alerting authorities that she was worried about her son's recent firearms purchases and plans to recon with people he met online. Among those he's believed to be in contact with, according to court documents, Daniel Eskridge of Missouri, Abraham Alvarez of Nebraska, plus Michael Allen Thomas and Brian Roa of California. These images from the complaint allegedly show Roa conducting firearms training. None of the suspects has entered a plea. That same complaint shows these images of firearms and ammunition seized from Proper's residence. Officials allege the group discussed their plans in a signal chat describing where snipers could be positioned and drones launched near the event.
The idea that you could apparently send drones in with weapons, explosives on them to their words, hit buildings, causing panic, it's a bit grandiose, but you just never know. Could part of it have worked? And the answer is yes.
Officials have called this a terrorist plot without naming any specific terrorist organization. The FBI says Propper's parents told them he recently begun interacting with a group online that claimed to be ex-military and Christian-based and expressed ultra-religious and anti-government sentiments. It's unclear how far along the alleged plot was.
Ultra religious and Christian based. Yeah, look out for those Christians. Look out for those angry, ultra religious, right wing Christians. When was the last Christian terrorist attack? I don't say this as a rhetorical question. I've asked this on previous James shows. And the last one we could get to, do you count an abortion clinic attack? Because there was a couple of those, like there was one 19 years ago in Colorado. I think there was another one 15 years ago. There was Eric Rudolph in the 1996 Olympics. Remember the Atlanta bombings? That's about all we got here. So to act like this is the most normal thing in the world, it's something you got to be looking out for. Look out for all those Christians. It's ridiculous. There's almost no such thing as a Christian terror attack. There hasn't been one in a decade. That's for damn sure. And there's been about 6 already this year from the Muslim side of the aisle. Do they ever get called ultra religious? I mean, I can't play you where they don't call them ultra religious. But let's go through just some recent James Show clips here where we are definitely dealing with ultra religious. It was just a few months ago in Hamtramck, Michigan, where the Muslims have taken over. They have every seat on the city council. The mayor is a Muslim. They have a new ordinance that they were passing allowing for animal sacrifice outside of the regular, city code, health code, zoning, whatever. Were they called ultra religious when they wanted to do that?
Debates raged on for at least 3 hours at Hamtramck City Hall over the new ordinance of sacrificing animals. The ordinance that was passed on Tuesday night says religious sacrificing of animals can be done as long as it is done legally and humanely.
And I guess you're just going to have to trust me. They never use the term ultra religious. It's the damnedest thing. I've never heard this term used before. So people that want to slaughter goats in their living room, not ultra religious, but Christians can be called ultra religious. Got it. What about the Mamdani protesters when they had the 2 IEDs thrown at them in front of the New York mayor mansion, the Gracie Mansion? Now, this just happened back in March. This is from March 9th, 2026. But when the 2 angry Muslims who are trying to murder Americans throw IEDs, are they referred to as ultra religious? Not at all.
Pennsylvania are in federal custody and
2 men from Pennsylvania, not Afghan immigrants in Pennsylvania.
2 teenagers from Pennsylvania are in federal custody and could be facing terrorism charges after allegedly bringing improvised explosive devices to Gracie Mansion and throwing them into a crowd.
Yeah, this happened on Saturday after a far-right group clashed with counter-protesters, causing chaos just outside of Mayor Zohran Mamdani's door.
Notice they weren't called ultra-religious. They weren't even called left-wing or far-left or radical left, but they did point out that the guys they were throwing bombs at were far-right. This is ridiculous. Here's another one. The New Year's Eve terror plot that was just busted up in December. I know this got memory hold almost immediately because it doesn't fit the narrative. But again, this is not white rural rage. This is not a bunch of Trumpers. Far or ultra religious, huh?
Back here in the U.S. tonight, the Justice Department says it has foiled an alarming New Year's Eve terror plot. They say 4 suspects were planning to fill backpacks with pipe bombs and detonate them at midnight on New Year's Eve at 5 locations in Southern California.
Yeah, look out for the old white rural rage, though. Look out for those white guys. Look out for those right wingers. Look out for those Trump supporters. Look out for those people in MAGA hats. Look out for those evil Christians. What is wrong? I mean, is there a bigger lie in the narrative other than how they cover what's obviously terrorist attacks? 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. More of the creepy details on the White House terror plot that was foiled for the UFC match coming up on the James Show. News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP, your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. You know, I was thinking my top story of the day was going to be this UFC White House terror plot, and then 11 minutes before the show started, the 14 points dropped for the Memorandum of Understanding in the Iran peace deal. So we've been juggling those two, but make no mistake, you know, the big thing that's actually happening here in our immediate proximity is the World Cup. I'm downtown. Our studio's at the American Airlines Center. Apparently, there's a lot of people that are staying down here. It is so cool to actually see, because I feel like this is what, when people plan this little part of town out, this is what they imagine it would be like all the time. It's not. It's usually a ghost town. This place fills up and goes crazy when there's a Mavericks game or a Stars game or something big going on at the American Airlines Center. But the other 300 days a year, I guess more like 200 days a year, ghosts. Well, not now, man. I saw some Croatians on my lunch break, and then I went over to the 7-Eleven. There was there's a Japanese couple there. They were just staring at their phones. Like, you need any help? You looking for something? They're like, nah, we don't speak English. It's like, well, then I can't help you, but I'm glad you're here. It's really cool. It's just, we have so much stuff, a whole war and stuff going on. Just don't miss all the fun that's being had here in North Texas. Joe in Grapevine, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
James, as always, honor and a privilege. Thank you, sir, for having me.
Thanks, Joe.
Thank you. James, you know, I know the audience is frustrated with what's going on. I know I've listened to you, and I listen to you every day, my friend. And I can tell you that there is so many things going on. There's just not planned A and B. You either sign it or we bomb the heck out of you. No, there are multiple plans, multiple objectives. There are multiple special operators. You could name all of them across the board, have their assignments. I guarantee you, we already heard that the Kurds were in Iran a couple of weeks ago, and I think Brian killed me. 2 weeks ago, Saudi Arabia had troops in Iran as well. I can assure you they all have their assignment. This is why we have a president, in my opinion. I think you'll agree, there are certain things you cannot disclose that are top secret. There are certain plans. He has multiple plans, and I won't have time to go through all of them, but what he's doing, didn't the EU, didn't our Western allies say that until the Strait opens up, they're not going to send in their ships to locate landmines? And something else, from being a former Marine, I can assure you, confidently say, we have been searching that mine with underwater drones, as we've seen above water drones, that rescue of those helicopter pilots. James, they are taking grid by grid and working on it. If we can get the allies to come in there and help us get that area cleared out, we're going to be able to establish, as we go along, points. It was also said, oh, they're restocking. We're getting more missiles and drones. You're right. They do know that. But then once they decide to go back in there, they're going to already know where to go. So I believe that this is not just a single, simple memorandum. There are multiple objectives right now, and they're going to fall back on either one because we don't know what Iran's going to do. And have they forgot about the Iranian people? Absolutely not. I can assure you there's an underground Iranian force that they're working with right now. The Kurds were given weapons. Yes, they were supposed to go Iran, but the Kurds, James, are not going to go into that country unarmed. I can assure you.
Well, hang on a second, Joe. I'm under the impression that for a big chunk of western and northwestern Iran, the Kurds are already there. Like Kurdistan, if it existed, would be a big chunk of eastern and southeastern Turkey, northern Iraq, the northwest corner of Iran, and maybe a little slice of that Syrian desert that's adjacent to that area. So if we are arming Kurds, we don't have to sneak them into Iran. We can just give them to the Kurds who are already in Iran. Now, the fact that the Kurds exist and probably want their own country is a bone of contention with some of our allies. Iraq doesn't want that to happen because then the Kurds in Iraq will want to join. Turkey doesn't want that to happen because then the Kurds in Turkey will want to join. Syria is going to have a problem with it, and we don't really care what the new Syrian government thinks. They seem to be pretty sketchy as it is. But,
Outstanding. Right.
Yes.
You're very good. You're very good, James. That is very good. I was going to say some of that. You did great. That is exactly what's going on.
Well, I was under the impression you didn't think the Kurds were in there, so you already knew that.
No. I knew they were.
Okay.
They were told to stand down 2 months ago. They wanted to go in there and do something, but that's when they got the arms. This was 2 months ago.
Oh, okay.
This is
I was confused by the language where you
arms.
said they wanted to go in there. I was like, no, they're already in there. We just need to give them some guns. All right, in 60 days. Does this is this memorandum of understanding? Is this ceasefire? Does this still hold 60 days from now?
James, all his Secretary of State, his Vice President, they've all said publicly yesterday, the day before, they don't believe Iran's going to hold up to it. Do you think the president thinks they're going to hold up to it? But he has to take things a step at a time. To appease the world, to appease our own country, to think he's just not going off the cuff. I assure you, audience, all of you patriots out there, and you, James, you're a great patriot. There is so much more going on they cannot talk about. They are not going to tell their strategy. And you don't tell somebody you're playing chess what your next move is. They can anticipate it, but they don't really know. You're a great patriot, James.
Thank you,
Keep
Joe.
doing what you're doing. Thank you, my friend.
All right, good call. Good call. Appreciate it. All right, coming up next on the James Show, we're going to take a look at some local news. There's a new city hall vote that's going to happen, but this isn't like the regular old vote. People might end up losing their jobs. I'll explain next on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, the blatant fraud about wanting to tear down City Hall is a hoax that just won't go away. I'm James Parker. You're listening to The James Show on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And this is really mutating into something strange, this whole storyline, because this just popped up in the fall. After the City Hall existing just fine for 48 years, here in year number 49, we've just magically discovered that it needs to be torn down and rebuilt. Why? Because it would cost too much to repair it. Where you get this from? Oh, well, we're going to have a study that's going to look into it. And so they have a study that looks into it. Yep, it'll be $1 billion. No, this is all lies. This is all lies. The only thing, the theory that makes the most sense, I should say, not the only thing that makes sense, but the theory that made the most sense for a while there was, well, they want to tear it down, build a new stadium for either the Mavericks and or the Stars, so they'll stay in downtown Dallas. And that makes sense because if the city council gets to have the decision on when and where the building's going to be and still going to be city-owned, then they get to choose who is going to get the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of contracts to build the thing. Oh, yeah. You could really line your pockets if you're in City Hall on that one. But we found out the Stars are going to Plano and the Mavs are going to Valley View. So now what's the point of tearing down City Hall? They still want to do it anyway. So last week, the advancement in this storyline was a couple of city councilmen actually got a temporary restraining order. They filed it. It was appealed. It was upheld. And the city of Dallas isn't supposed to do anything on this project until some certain criteria is met. They're not even supposed to have any votes on it until something or else happens. But then they had a vote on it. I think that was yesterday or day before yesterday anyway. Now, is that in violation of the temporary restraining order? I'm not a lawyer. I have watched the first 6 seasons of Suits, but I don't know. It sounds like, though, that they're in violation of that order. Now, there's going to be another meeting tonight, and I think depending on the outcome of this meeting, we might have some people get fired. Because if you're in a position of power, you know, the city manager is probably more powerful than the elected mayor in Dallas, but they're not elected themselves. They're appointed by the city council. So what you have here is an unaccountable bureaucrat and just flagrantly violating a court order. Kimberly Tolbert, is she going to lose her job? WFAA has a little bit better summary than me here.
On the agenda, those items would give authorization to the city manager to negotiate pre-acquisition agreements for 4 possible relocation sites for City Hall. But the voting itself has come under legal scrutiny when earlier this month, 2 council members, Adam Basildua and Paula Blackman, sought and were granted a restraining order against the city to stop the council from moving forward with votes on the future of City Hall. Yet last week, a vote was held, and members voted 9-6 against any plans for repairing City Hall. Basildua and Blackman say that violated the restraining order, so now they want the city manager and secretary held in contempt of court and the vote voided. So will any of those votes will those votes happen today? That is something we are watching. And again, you just saw they returned to the dais about 15 minutes ago. We will see if indeed they do vote on the possible relocation of City Hall.
Man, the City Hall situation is so bizarre. We have just out of nowhere people saying we've got to tear this building down, and none of their excuses make sense. Oh, it's so old. Oh, really? So this building is younger than me, by the way. It's one of the younger buildings in downtown. In fact, if you took the average age of all the buildings downtown, that building would be below average. It's the 5th City Hall in Dallas history. The 4th City Hall in Dallas history was built in 1912. Not only is it still standing, it's still being actively used by the city. So how is a 114-year-old building still able to be used by the city, but a 48-year-old building has to be torn down because it's now obsolete? It makes no sense at all. People are lying to your face. I can't stand that. I can't just sit here and have people lie to your face and be like, well, whatever, just let them tear it down. They're going to do whatever they want anyway. I don't have that gene. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right, coming up next on the James Show, Rashee Rice is out of jail. Goodness gracious, that's a bad idea. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey there, welcome back to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. I am your host, James Parker. Let me throw a handful of local stories at you, because it's nothing as big as the Iran war peace deal. I'll get back to that in the next hour and recap that for those of you just joining the show. It's not as big as the World Cup that's going on, but there's a handful of little stories, so I'm going to cram them all into one segment. One of them, a local football hero, Rashee Rice. He went to high school here, played college at SMU. Now he's with the Kansas City Chiefs. He got in trouble last year for getting in the wreck on 75 over here. They had rented like a Lambo, and I forgot what the other one was. And they got in a big crash, and then it was a mess because they left the scene of the accident where people got hurt. And he managed to get the slap on the wrist treatment because he's an NFL star, and he managed to avoid jail. All you got to do is be on probation and just abide by the rules of it for the next couple of years, and you won't go to jail. Well, he couldn't do it. He had to smoke weed. He couldn't stand not smoking weed for a couple years. He failed a drug test, had to go to jail for 30 days. Now he's out.
Rashee Rice is out of the Dallas County Jail. The Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver and former SMU star was released this morning after serving 30 days for testing positive for THC. That violated his probation after pleading guilty for a crash on 75 last year that injured several people.
Thank you to our news partners, WFAA, for that report. So I'm going to say what I said when he went to jail, but I think I was just speaking into the win that day. Now that he's out of jail, there's actually a chance that he might be listening, or someone that knows him might be listening. Let me give you this piece of advice, Rashee Rice. You like weed? Fine. I wish you didn't. No one's perfect. But you realize that if you like weed so damn much, that if you just don't smoke it and play by the rules for the next 5, maybe 10 years, if you manage to avoid the injury bug, you're going to make millions and millions and millions of dollars. And after you're done with the NFL, you can go buy bricks of weed, and you can go make the Great Pyramid of Giza, and you could stack up your weed bricks to where it's 100 feet high. In fact, you can try and set a world record. You're going to have so much money. You can afford so much weed. You probably could build an actual Pyramid of Giza made out of weed, and then you can spend the rest of your life smoking it. So even if you do love weed, it would make sense to not smoke it now. Just put it down. Just get a beer, or I don't know, get on a merry-go-round and go around really, really fast until you feel all dizzy, and woo! That's about as high as you can get for the next few years, all right? Without it being something stupid. So if someone could pass that sage piece of wisdom along to Rashee Rice, I think that would help the brother out. Another story here locally, you go up to Fairview. Mormons want to build a new temple. And the zoning for the residential restrictions of the neighborhood they want to build in say you can't build anything higher than 35 feet. Well, they want to build a giant steeple, and now it's a problem because some people aren't happy with it. WFAA.
All right, the mayor of Fairview is pushing back on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints over plans to put a 120-foot steeple on a temple that is under construction. Mayor John Hubbard just announcing a new community campaign urging the church to modify its plans. There's no objection to the temple itself, but the spire is 3 times the town's 35-foot residential zoning limit. The town council approved plans for the project last year after church officials agreed to lower the steeple's height from 173 feet. The church issued a new statement saying this campaign amounts to pressure to change its plans. They broke ground back in February. They're planning to proceed in full accordance with the agreed upon plan, they say. Meantime, the town council will meet again about this next month.
You know, this is one of the just reinforces my libertarian type stories, because I'm so tired of everybody trying to stop other people to doing whatever they want with their private property. You can't build a data center there. I don't want to have to look at a data center. Well, that's too bad. That's not your property. Oh, look, I don't want them to build a Mormon temple there with a giant steeple. That's terrible. We should fight that. And just over and over and over, people are always trying to get stuff stopped. Just leave them alone. Let them build whatever they want. It's their private property. If you have a problem with Mormons, what do you want to do? Deport them? You know, I can understand if a foreign culture is moving here and they're trying to colonize and set up like a parallel society with a parallel legal system and discriminate against their fellow Americans, air quotes. But the Mormons aren't guilty of any of that. They're American. There's nowhere you can deport them to. You may not agree with their general religious philosophy, but they're at least a sect of Christianity. At least they are rolled within the general umbrella of Western civilization. So that's a weird one too. Also, a local news story. Kind of doesn't make me feel too great here. There was a fatal truck crash by DART earlier this week. WFAA on that report.
DART train collided with a pickup truck, killing the driver. It happened near the Lake Highlands station in northeast Dallas. 2 passengers were taken to the hospital as well, but they are expected to be okay. The crash did cause some delays along the Blue Line. We reached out to DART for more information, but have not heard back just yet.
So DART this week has killed more people than have killed by the gun show loophole. Are you familiar with this? This is something that always drives me nuts as a gun nut. And I'm not even really a gun nut. I don't own dozens of guns. I don't have thousands of rounds of ammo, but I do appreciate the Second Amendment and support our gun rights and understand it. But you realize we have to hear this. It comes up during debates. It comes up during symposiums and arguments on CNN. But they talk about, we need to close the gun show loophole. If you've heard of that before, allow me to be the first person to tell you that in all of the research I've done and the anti-gun movement has done, they can't find one person who was killed from a gun that was purchased in the gun show loophole. And the loophole, all it is like private transactions. Like if I sold my gun to Garrett, or if I gave my gun to Garrett, if we transferred ownership, I don't have to run a background check on Garrett. We're private operators. If I was a licensed firearm dealer and I was doing this for a living and paying taxes and all that stuff, I would have to run a background check. So if you go to a gun show and you're buying from a licensed dealer, they have to run a background check on you. But if you meet someone you like and they have a gun that they're trying to sell and it's a gun that you're trying to buy, but you're a private guy and he's a private guy, y'all can go out to the parking lot and have a private transaction where no one has a background check run. And people like Bernie Sanders and AOC and Elizabeth Warren and Gavin Newsom and James Tallarico and Beto O'Rourke and all these people come out and they tell you we got to close the gun show loophole. DART this week has killed more people than the gun show loophole. Just throwing that at you. All right, coming up next on the James Show, I love having a chat about this story because it's so much wider than politics. It has been discovered that James Tallarico, the Democrat candidate running for Senate against Ken Paxton here in Texas, he only has one checking account, and it's a joint account. Is it with his wife? Is it with his girlfriend? Is it with his business manager? It's with his mom. His mom. His mom's still putting money in his account, helping pay his bills. He's not separated from his mom financially. He doesn't have his own checking account. Let's talk about that next on the James Show. 800-288-9227. 800-288-9227. All right, coming up for our 4th of July party. It's going to happen on July 1st. The Dallas Express and WBAP are teaming up to bring you Rich O'Toole, the American Kid concert that's going to be happening. It's on a Wednesday before the 4th of July, but it's at the Longhorn Ice House. It's absolutely free if you want to get in. And I did get an answer to the big question. Will kids be allowed? The word I got today is yes. You can bring your kid. So now this is the perfect event that I wanted. We have a pro-American music act. There's going to be me, Dallas Express. It's centrally located geographically. You can even bring your kids, and it's free. If you want to hang out at the VIP party beforehand, special meet and greet with myself, some other people we're going to be announcing in the next 2 weeks, Rich O'Toole, Chris Putnam, we'll all be there. You can pay for that, but I think we've almost sold out of the VIP area. I think we sold 100 tickets in the last 24 hours to that. So if you want to get in on that, you might want to jump on it. I'm James Parker. This is the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Is it weird for a 37-year-old man to have his only checking account be jointly owned by his mother? I'm James Parker, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. And look, that doesn't disqualify you from being a senator. It doesn't disqualify you. Maybe you're still a good senator. But it does raise some questions here because Tallarico is under the microscope because he's asking for a big job. He's asking to be one of the 2 senators from the greatest state in the greatest country the world has ever known. And the more you learn about this guy, the more that you start to think, look, I know some of his views are weird, but he's starting to be weird, and it's starting to explain some of his views. The man has a checking account with his mom. Okay, that in itself isn't a bad thing. But if it's your only checking account, it's not like you had your own checking account and now your mom's getting so old, you've become sort of a conservator, or you've got the power of attorney over her finances. That's not what's going on at all. This is a guy who's always had a joint checking account with his mom from childhood and then never cut the cord. That is weird. And it's also weird the fact that he's 37 years old, never married, doesn't seem to be too enthusiastic about it. It's not like he was married and then, he and his wife were infertile or they had a falling out and he got divorced and he just hadn't found the right one. He's just never been married. Just never been close to it. He says he has a girl now. No one has ever seen him with her. They went and drummed up some pictures and you're like, hang on a second. That's one of your staffers, your former staffers. Yeah, that's how I met her. Okay, so this sounds like it's just a setup. It sounds like you went through your phone. You're like, all right, who can I get that I can trust to play my girlfriend just to get me through this stupid election season? And that's a concern because, Tallarico does have at least a career of some sort at some point. A lot of these candidates don't. Bernie Sanders was never anything. Joe Biden was a lawyer for about 4 months. Tallarico was a teacher for a few years. However, when you look at his financials, the reporting on this, and I haven't gone through his financials. I'm not doing any tax audits today. But they're showing that he hasn't really had any other employment since he has been in office for the last 5 or 6 years. He's just been a 100% full-time politician. But that is weird that he has a joint checking account with his mom. That's his only checking account, and she puts money in it from time to time. They're trying to make a fuss about how when he was 32, he had to move, and she helped him pay for his moving expenses. I mean, that's not weird if your parents help you out. It's weird, though, if they help you out because you have a joint checking account with mommy that you've had since childhood and you've never, I don't know, there's something weird going on. Not with this whole next generation, but with a subset in this next generation that they just refuse to grow up. And this has been happening for a good 10 years or so. The kids in the basement, the 30-year-old kids that are still living with mom and dad. That was a weird thing about 30 years ago, about 10 years ago. It's ballooned a little since then. And there's this whole just arrested development thing that's not an accident, by the way. Hey, Garrett, how do you think you spell Saline in Grand Saline? This is Bert in Grand Saline. You're on News Talk 820 and 93.3 FM WBAP.
What's going on, James? Love the show. I want to come at you with a little bit different perspective. Sure. I own the Grand Saline Sun down here in Grand Saline, Texas, and we've recently started our own broadcast. And I do a daily talk show as well. And we discussed this exact issue yesterday. We had a Democrat on the show, and she brought up the misconceptions and stuff like that. And me being an independent, this is how I look at this. We all know that Ken Paxton has some very deep pockets, and used to that big money stayed up around the state and national level. But with best facilities, AI development, stuff like that, I've seen it creep into our commissioners' court meetings and stuff like that down here in Van Zandt County. And so I want to say this. As an independent, absolute power corrupts absolutely. So why not put a little blue dye in the ink so we can have a little bit of diversity? This man shares a bank account with his mama. Yeah, I'm like you. Okay, 37 years old. Maybe, yeah, but guess what? He ain't getting funded by a bunch of PACs and a bunch of dirty money that does nothing but manipulate our policy. That's been going on for a way long time.
Well, let me ask you about that, Bert. First off, I think it's odd that you considered Ken Paxton to be the guy that's got the wall of money behind him, because that was John Cornyn. John Cornyn spent over $100 million on that primary.
Who paid for Paxton's impeachment, dude? I mean, this isn't. I mean, and we can debate on who's got the bigger coffer. That was brought up yesterday, because my co-host is a Republican diehard, and he said, "Well, yeah, but Tallarico's got this." I said, "Well, let's just put them on the scale together." My thing is, we need reform in this country, and big money. And I'm going to go after them. PACs. I hate PACs, good and bad, because I do not like manipulation in our policy. And you're right, it has ballooned lately, because if you watch the bar graph go as it goes further and further, the independence of the small man, the middle class is dissolving. We have no other course, and it's the big money that's pushing this, that's keeping their foot on our heads.
So who has more money in the bank right now in their Senate campaigns, Tallarico or Paxton?
Well, if that's so, I'm going to ask you this. Who did the money come from for Tallarico? If it's from individuals, then maybe it's the people speaking that, hey, maybe we need a little bit of change. Is it from big oil and gas?
Well,
it's been doing it for years.
Let's
look at the
how much of Tallarico's funding has come from out of state then? Answer your own question.
Well, to me, if we're looking at the United States, it is the people. It is the grand. Look at it. But how many years has Paxton been paid for?
Bert, you're starting to tick me off because you're not answering any of my questions directly.
Okay, one question. Ask me one question.
Okay. First off, who has more money in the bank in their campaign, Tallarico or Paxton?
Well, from what it looks like, Tallarico does.
Okay, so
but where's it coming from?
Okay, that's great. Let's do that one. What percentage of Tallarico's money is coming from out of state?
Well, I'm talking about from individuals.
I know you are, because that sounds better for you. Have a pre-existing bias, so you're trying to frame these otherwise sterile details. Yeah, you are. Yeah, you are. 800-288-9227. You know what's going on here, because when Beto ran the last couple of times, so much of his money came from out of state, and that was the case that was made against him. And if I ask a guy how much money's coming from out of state, and he's like, I don't care if it's from individuals, I care. If it's from some rich guy in California or New York or anybody besides Texas, that's at least questionable. It's just as questionable if the money came from big oil interests. Okay, are these big oil interests in Texas? Is it bad for one guy to get a whole lot of money, but not bad for another guy to get a whole lot of money? Is it bad only if the interests that are going to one guy are a problem, but the interests that are going to another guy, that's not a problem? Sounds like you had a pre-existing destination and you were trying to backfill the details to support that. But I mean, look, generally speaking, the point kind of stands. Being a guy who 37 years old, the only checking account you have is with your mama, always been with your mama. That's weird. Doesn't disqualify you from being Senate. I would rather know how you feel about balancing the budget or upholding the Constitution, or what you would like to do with, the next big spending bill that comes through. But it is kind of weird, and don't act like it's not. 800-288-9227. More on the Tallarico financial discoveries on the James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. How weird is too weird to be a senator? I'm James Parker. It's the James Show. News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. Your home for Markley, Van Camp, and Robbins. They're on from 11 to 2 on WBAP. And, they were talking about this earlier today as well. And it's not a deal breaker. It shouldn't be a deal breaker. It is just kind of weird that James Tallarico only has one checking account, and it's a joint account with his mom, and he's 37 years old. Never married. Okay. Used to be if you made it to 37 years old, never married, we all just assumed you're probably gay. That's not the case anymore. There has been this new breed in society of the perpetual adolescent. Now, they have always existed. I think their proportion has just exploded in the last generation or two. And that's just a luxury of the affluent is all that is. The kids don't want to leave because life is so good staying at mom and dad's home. And the parents don't want the kids to leave because you love your kids and you like having them around. And even though that's not what's best for them, that's kind of fun for you. It's fun being a mom. It's fun being a dad. I love it. I understand why people don't want to let it go. I have a feeling when my kid's 18, 19 years old, I'm going to be kicking them out. I'm going to get out of here. Can't get them out fast enough. I'm not talking about you, Garrett, but you're getting into that age range. You're still with your parents and you're what, 29? And we're not judging here. This is a safe place. This is all right. This is a safe place. To the phones we go. Anita in Fort Worth, you're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
I'm calling and not necessarily saying that Tallarico's a weird dude, although he is, and everybody's saying, but look at Paxton. However, I'm going to say that you have to decide, are you going to go with somebody that's admitted fault but advocates for those political and righteous beliefs and policies that I support as a Christian, or are you going to go with someone because he's nice? Because nice guys can be bad. And I truly believe that you are correct and that his money is coming from out of state from the Democratic Party. It's not from individuals.
Well, again, even if all of his money is coming from out of state, if he was lining up with the exact same policy preferences I wanted in my governance, I would still vote for him. So, I mean, these are factors that can kind of point toward why someone may be a bad candidate. Any of them on their own right is not like a disqualifying factor. But I love having this conversation because I don't think enough people understand what you just said, Anita, and the fact that if you had the ideal candidate versus a candidate who was an absolute garbage human being, but the garbage human being put forth free market capitalism and constitutional enlightenment principles, and the awesome, perfect guy was a socialist, well, then you would be an idiot to vote for the nice guy. You need to go vote for the guy that cheats on his wife and, steals money from the till or takes bribes or gets money from out of state or whatever. It really does come all about to the policy preferences, which is why I'm voting for neither one of them. I usually vote third party. I just don't like to rub it in everybody's face because that's not real popular. But yeah, I vote for neither one.
Well, remember, a vote's not a Valentine. And if we don't vote, then to me, you can't complain.
I'm going to steal that. A vote is not a Valentine. That's good stuff. Because the other one,
I'm gonna give it to Josh Howardson. Is where I got that from.
Yeah, and I forgot who I stole it from. But when I think when Donald Trump was running the first time, and look, he's kind of coarse. And when the Access Hollywood videos came out, grab him by the you know what, I was like, we are hiring someone to run the most powerful country in the world, not someone to host a dinner party. So kind of along the same lines, but I like the way you put that. Good stuff. Thank you, Anita. Let's go to Ken in Arlington. You're on News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.
Hey, if she's helping him bounce his checkbook, she's going to help him bounce the budget.
I mean, we don't know. Maybe he's always in the red. We don't know if she's even doing a good job.
Well, I mean, I'm not from that party, but I mean, if your mom's hovering over you, doing the Hercules moment that he had a first bowel movement.
Wait, is that a Tyler Perry reference?
Yes.
Very good. Nice. Keep going, Ken. You're kicking it.
So, and you have to there's a difference between separation of church and state. Okay, separation of your mom and living on your own. That's what needs to happen.
Well, see, Bernie Sanders never had a career and made it on his own. John Fetterman is a guy who, just until recently, was getting a monthly allowance from his family's trust fund. AOC is another one of those where, yeah, she just flitted through college and then she was getting money from her daddy to help pay rent, so she got to just kind of be a bartender and have fun until she got into Congress. And there tends to be this new genre of candidate that fits that mold. I don't know. I bet you a lot of the old candidates were like that too, had trust fund money. All right, coming up next on the James Show, we're going to revisit the 14 points in the Iran deal memorandum of understanding. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Hey, homeowners, James Parker here for Blue Ribbon Roofing. If you have gotten any of this bad weather as of late, well, then Blue Ribbon Roofing can put you at ease because you're going to sit there and you're going to wonder if your roof is okay. You're going to cross your fingers and hope that there's not a little trickle of water that's getting through. It could be seeping into your drywall right now. It could be in that space between the drywall in the walls and it's just growing mold right now. You may have to end up remediating your entire house and tearing out drywall and tearing it down to the studs because you didn't call Blue Ribbon Roofing and have them come check it out. Here's the good news. It doesn't cost you anything. So if you've had any of this bad weather, it makes sense. If you get the free roof inspection, go to blueribbondfw.com. All right, I'm gonna get you all caught up on the memorandum of understanding. It's nothing to be too excited about, but it's progress. I'm James Parker. You're listening to the James Show on News Talk 820 93.3 FM WBAP. And this became the top story for the show today. I started off the program with this at 2 o'clock because at 1:49 here in Texas time, we actually had the text of the memorandum of understanding and were able to read it and go through the 14 points with you. And I didn't even have the whole thing finished reading and Googling and double checking what all these words and scenarios mean before the show started. And so we were kind of walking through it together. But now that we've had a couple of hours to digest it and discuss it, and I'm getting a bunch of emails and Facebook messages on it, let's come back and revisit it for the people who joined the show late. Number one is immediately all of the bombing, the firing, the blockades, the sanctions, the Strait of Hormuz, all that is supposed to be back to normal, open, back for business immediately. Because there was a question, well, is the Strait of Hormuz, is that going to be open? Is the oil blockade going to happen? Is the U.S. naval blockade still going to happen now? Or is it going to happen when the final deal is signed? Or is it going to happen when we have this little 60-day window where we figure out what's going to happen with the uranium when that's signed? Nope, it's going to happen immediately. So, that sounds okay. We do not know what's going to happen with the uranium. We kind of expected that. There's supposed to be another series of conversations on what they're supposed to do. Is it just underground in some bunker that got bombed out and we're going to have to dig it out with a bunch of backhoes? I don't know. And backhoe is construction equipment, Garrett, wasn't making a joke about a woman of questionable repute. The criticism is already coming down in a couple of angles here. Number one, Ben Shapiro, and I bet you right after the James Show's over, Mark Levin, is not going to like the fact that it sounds like it's going to hamstring Israel's ability to make strikes in Lebanon or wherever else they're getting attacked from around their borders. The other part that is questionable, even in my mind, is there's a specific number of $300 billion worth of investments that Iran's going to be expecting. And if any of that comes from just one nickel of taxpayer money, I'm going to raise hell. I'm not going to like it. Now, we don't know, so I have to kind of temper my criticism until we do know. But I just keeping an eye on that. Skepticism abounds. And so with all those caveats, I'm still overall happier that this war seems to be getting closer to an end than continuing. I didn't want the war to start to begin with. Whatever the next war is, I'm already against that. But I do recognize that some good things can come of this. In fact, I think it's a good thing that the Ayatollah got killed. He's such a bad state actor. We've given an incentive not only for this new Ayatollah to take us a little more serious, but every time one of the world's tyrants thinks that they want to pop their little head up out of the whack-a-mole table, they'll remember what happened last time. That guy got blowed up. So there could be some good things that come out of this. Was it worth it? I don't know. We spent a lot of money and we lost, 16 lives and some airplanes, and to kill the Ayatollah and just return the broken pieces of the Iranian infrastructure over to the next Ayatollah? So cautiously optimistic, still the path I'm on, still how I would describe myself. I think this is better than what we had last week. I think this is an improvement. Is it good? I don't think anybody in their right mind can give you a final decision or even be that resolute about their opinion on this without knowing how the rest of this works itself out. What we have seen, though, is you've already predicted this even before the text came out today. I already predicted this. Donald Trump's going to say it's the best deal ever. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Believe me. And all the Trump derangement syndrome people are going to say it's a terrible deal. The deal sucks. It's awful. It's a capitulation. Worst deal ever. I know it. You know it. Everybody knows it. Believe me. The other frustrating part is the answer is going to be where? Somewhere in the middle. I do like a couple of other aspects of this, though. Number one, having the peace deal, having it signed, having J.D. Vance there in Switzerland, which is what we expect. We don't know if Trump's going to sign it. I don't think he will. I think if you're president, you don't want to sign the memorandum of understanding. You might want to sign the final draft of the final bill, or hell, you might even want to just send your Secretary of State to sign the final draft of the final bill. There are some things that are beneath you. So I can understand that. But look, the question was asked earlier today. Are you going to stay in town? Because he's in Switzerland right now for the G7. Are you going to stay 2 more days to sign the deal?
Thank you, President Trump. I have a question about this weekend. Why not stick around for the signing ceremony with this Iran peace deal?
I might.
You might.
Yeah, I might. But I'd rather, this is a memorandum of understanding. It's very important, but it might not be the kind of a document that I should be signing.
And also the fact that J.D. Vance is going to be there. That'd be kind of nice, because if J.D. Vance signs the deal and in 60 days we don't have an agreement on what's going to happen with uranium and the whole deal falls apart and war breaks out again, then you could just blame J.D. Vance. Not my fault.
Is there some element to this where you send the vice president, if it works out, great, you look like a genius for sending him. And if it doesn't work out, it's the vice president.
I like that idea, sure. What? This way, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming JD. You better be careful, JD. He's going to turn his plane around and get the hell out of here. Yeah, I like that idea. I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, he's just having a little fun with his buddy there. Coming up next on The James Show, there was a weird news report on guns at the airport. And after I heard the report, I was like, what was that even about? And it just felt like just regular old propaganda, just thrown in there with the regular newscast. Here's almost like a PSA that's sort of an anti-gun grooming public relations campaign. It's the strangest thing. You'll hear it next on The James Show. News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. Well, hey there. Welcome to the James Show, News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP. You ever see like a news report and you're like, am I being groomed here? Am I being brainwashed? Because some of them aren't even news. You think it's news and then you watch it. I don't know. I think a lot of people just watch the news and just accept it without any question. Most of the people listening to something awesome like WBAP probably have a little more critical thinking skills. But I saw this report on our news station, our news partner, WFAA, and I don't want to blame them. I see this on all TV stations my entire life. So have you. Every once in a while, they just have an anti-gun story. And when I am done with this little package here, I want you to tell me what this story was about. Like, think of yourself as a journalist. By what journalistic metric is this a news story? Because it sounds just like some random bad guns are bad. It's like 90 seconds of that.
For years, DFW and often Dallas Love Field have been in the top 10 airports nationally for firearms caught at checkpoints. Nearly 400 guns at DFW in 2024, second only to Atlanta's airport.
Woo, gonna be an expensive day for you.
The TSA says fines start at $3,000 and can go as high as $17,000.
So we're going to put the weapon back in here, but you have to be more careful.
The agency says all firearms must be declared and in checked bags only. On these body camera videos from DFW Airport Police,
As you can see, I'm putting this here.
officers return the guns after checking to make sure the passenger is allowed to carry and told them to put it in their cars.
Make sure you get both of those out, okay? Yeah.
A stern warning, a hefty fine, and a delay for other passengers after one is caught packing heat.
Okay, so the hell was that story about? Like, what if you had to write the headline for that story, what would it be? Guns are bad, especially at the airport. Like, is that it? Is that what it would be? Guns are scary. News at 10. What is that? To give you an example of like what would be a legitimate answer, well, is there a new law that's been proposed to change that? Is there a new law that just passed that updated these laws and you need to tell the general public about it so they know how to exercise their gun rights at the airport? No, none of that happened. Did a new report come out that shows that there was a big drastic change year over year in gun confiscations in any airport or in the Dallas airports? Was a famous person caught with a gun? Did Jerry Jones or Barry Switzer get caught with a gun? Remember Barry Switzer got caught with a gun at the airport back in the 90s, I think it was. I was here for that. I wasn't on the radio yet, but I was here for that. No, it was just a regular, hey, we've got 90 seconds to kill. Let's just fill it with guns are bad. And it's such an insane story because how many people have been harmed with guns on an airplane in your entire life? Yeah, 0.0, right? I mean, the old Animal House, 0.0. Meanwhile, people are getting shot up on the DART train all the time. Do you ever get scary stories about how, well, your gun rights and trains, it's really scary? No, they never make that association. Why? Because public transportation, good. Private transportation, bad. Gun rights are scary. Unless they're on the train, then we will ignore it because we don't want you to think negatively about these trains that are robbing you blind by billions of dollars every year. I just thought that deserves some attention. How many times do you see stories in the news and you go, what the hell was that? What the hell was even that story? Because and what I just played you, what was newsworthy about that? I have been in the editorial meetings for news stations, plural, on TV. Here in Texas, I was on a TV station in New Orleans where every day you go in, you have a meeting, and they decide what the stories of the day are going to be. And it's almost a Saturday Night Live skit every day. You can imagine me in these meetings where they're like, so in the A block, we're going to start off with the attack on Palestine by Israel. I'm like, oh, that's weird, because the last 3 days we didn't do any stories on the 157 rockets that were floated from Gaza into Israel, but we are going to report on the retaliation. Okay, that makes sense. Oh boy, it was a mess. But yeah, I just wanted to show you that example because maybe you don't see that yet. And if I put this seed in your head, next time you watch the news, watch it with that hyper skeptical lens that I just gave you and tell me how many stories you see like this. Because there was no news in that story. There was no new information in that story. There was no event There was no celebrity tie-in, no local tie-in. There in no way did this affect you in any other way that it affected you yesterday or tomorrow or the day before or the day after or any of that. Just random. It's like you're being groomed to think guns are bad. Guns are scary. Guns are a problem. We've got to do something about guns. And if you don't believe me, well, then you're just not paying attention. And I'm paying attention. All right. I need you to pay attention to this. We're having our next big party is going to happen July 1st. And this is for the best cause possible. It's America's 250th birthday party. We're going to do it July 1st. Longhorn Ice House, Northwest Highway. It's the one up there in front of the lodge, you sinners. But Rich O'Toole is going to be, he's a Texas country artist. He's going to be the headliner there. And we're not going to do music the whole time. It's not like it's going to be a concert. But we're going to be there and we're going to hang out for a while. And then we're going to listen to some music. And then we're going to go back to hanging out. It all starts at 6 o'clock. Now, we had a whole bunch of people pitch into this. And so give some love to our sponsors when you get there. And they put up some money, so this is absolutely free. It's a joint venture with Dallas Express and WBAP, but we've pretty much rented out the whole place on your behalf. Now, if you want to be part of the meet and greet and the special VIP reception, where it's just going to be you and I think we're capping it at 100 people. You can pay for that, and you can show up an hour early, and you can be privy to the VIP party. But for the rest of us, absolutely free, doesn't cost you anything, and we don't want it to cost you anything. But here's also the great news. You can actually bring your kiddo. And this is fun because how hard is it to take your kid to a concert? Almost every concert that I want to take my kids to is either 21 and up or at least 18 and up. And I don't have any kids that are 18 years old. So you get to have a 4th of July party with your favorite radio host, or maybe your least favorite radio host. There's a pro-American Texas country band there. It's centrally located geographically in the North Texas and the Dallas-Fort Worth area, and you can bring your whole family. You're not just celebrating America's birthday. You're making a memory with your wife and kids. And 20 years from now, 30 years from now, after you're gone, they're going to be telling your great-grandkids about America's 250th birthday party. And it'd be nice if they remember the name The James Show. So come on out. I would love to meet you. Doesn't cost you anything, so there's no excuse. It's July 1st, Longhorn Ice House, America's 250th birthday bash, WBAP, DallasExpress.com, and Rich O'Toole. All right, that's going to do it for my show. Mark Levin's taking over next. I'm James Parker. It's News Talk 820, 93.3 FM, WBAP.